Renee Darnell is a member of the Christian Indie Publishing Association and member and juror for the Academy of Interactive and Visual Art. She judges the Communicator, Davey, and W3 awards. She's also an artist and a photographer. Her works have been in exhibit in Art Basel, Expo Metro, and in galleries in Switzerland, Italy, Germany, Greece, Spain, and New York Times Square. Mrs. Donner has won 24 International Photography Awards and 39 International Book Awards. She has been honored in Marquis Who is Who, Marquis Top Professional, and in the Millennium Magazine. And on today's episode of Photo Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to have on the show today the impressive Don. How are you doing, Don?
I'm so well. Thank you so much. It's such a joy that you're having me. I love it. I love your shows. You do such an amazing work. So I'm honored to be with you today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your kind words. So, Dan, I want to first say that congratulations on your new release. And reading through the book was quite amazing to me. I found it a bit hilarious, captivating, and interesting. I would like to know how it came about. What inspired you to write Schoolhouse Dog?
Well, my sister-in-law had come over with children and they were playing with my dog Yoda Bear, which is Crinkle Bear in the book. And
Mm.
they had so much fun. But by the time they left, I said, I want to write a book about my dog because you just inspired. I mean, Sharpays aren't supposed to be known for being really good with kids, but he was amazing. He was amazing with them, and they were amazing with him. And
Wow.
so that's what started it. Yeah.
That's actually amazing because when I read the book, it was quite intriguing to me. At some point, I laughed. At some point, I'm like, oh my God, that's quite interesting. Really nice you can do this. And it's quite nice to know what led to the inspiration of it. Now, Don, aside being a writer, you're also an artist and a photographer. Could you tell us more about your artworks? It'd be
Yes.
fun if you can show maybe some samples, walk to the camera if you have some there with you.
Sure, I might have a few. So as far as the photography goes, I am a wildlife photographer mostly. I do some stills, but my thrill in photography is when something is moving and you can capture it and freeze time. And if you do it well enough, it actually looks like it's still moving, even though, it's
Mm.
not. This is one of my books that I have of photography. And so here are
Wow.
some of my
Artwork.
photography that you
Wow.
can see. What I do also like about photography is I like to capture emotion. Of course, butterflies capture emotions and birds, but I also like to capture it in snakes, rattlesnakes,
Mm.
and spiders, alligators. I love alligators and sharks and jellyfish, and so yeah, that's my photography. I've won several awards. This is one of my
Wow.
statues. Um, There's another one. So I've
Beautiful.
won these two statues for
Wow.
my photography awards. So
It's
they're very
amazing.
cool. Those are for the Muse. This one is my London photography. One of
Wow.
those
Beautiful.
awards. It's very cool. Um, as far as my art goes, I do like a mixed media art. So it's done with oil pencils,
Mm.
watercolor pencils, wax pencils, charcoal sticks, and then I like to use soft pastels. But then when I'm all done and it's all dry, what I like to use that most people don't know is makeup. So I come back and I'll outline an eyeliner or mascara. I love to use eyeshadows and blush and even lipsticks to give some things a pop of color on a lot of my art. This is one that
Mm.
I made, a crinkle bear
Yeah.
that made the book, and
Yeah.
all of my original art will always have where I test my colors up at the top, and
Oh.
I always leave that there, and that's something I'm known for. I
Wow.
made it. I tested my colors. Usually it's my watercolors because I have to dip them in water, and I've probably got 300 pencils of some kind, and the
Wow.
water ones you put in water, and different brands they kind of make a different color, and so that's where I go to test them to make sure I get the right color. So
That's very amazing. And I'm quite intrigued with your number of awards and, accolades that you've got. It's quite amazing. And that's quite a huge work on your part. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, for readers who haven't read Schoolhouse Dog Face Life
hmm
yet, and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we'd expect picking up Schoolhouse Dogs?
Well, with Schoolhouse Dogs, you go on an adventure, that's for sure. So it is 12 puppies and some alley cats, a couple of teachers, all with their weaknesses and
Mm,
strengths.
yeah.
One has anxiety, which causes him to pee everywhere. One is hyperactive. One is homeless. One is a bully. You have teachers that don't really listen to the problem, like they want to judge and fix the situation without knowing both sides. Uh, and so it creates a lot of problems in the beginning, but through forgiveness and acceptance and commitment to selfless giving as a gift and to encouragement, they
Mm,
all learn to work together and they become friends. And so
yeah.
it's a great story. Yeah.
Yeah, I like your take on that. And I particularly love the hilarity features that the novel possesses. It really made for an interesting discussion. Thank you so much for
Right.
sharing. Yeah,
Oh, thank you so much.
yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Now, there's this question that I love asking authors that come on my show. I've always been fascinated about how authors, especially novelists like yourself, craft long sentences and brings words together in a way that it eventually make a great novel. This always leaves me thinking about how exactly they got their ideas and inspiration. I would also love to ask you, as far as writing is concerned, how do you get your inspiration and ideas from?
From everyday life, everyday life.
Mm.
So the book actually was going in a different direction, but Yoda Bear needed some training. And so we took Yoda Bear to a training class that was done by someone who trains police dogs.
Oh,
And there were four there, and it was for like 6 weeks, twice a week for like 3 hours each time. So a lot of time. And part of this training was not just sitting and standing, but you would have, there were all kinds of dogs, right? And you had to walk your dog. Every dog had to be walked around, every dog that was there. And you had to keep your dog under control. And then the dogs had to uh, cross the street with lots of trucks, big semis blowing their horns. They had to jump over puddles. They had to jump over holes. They had to jump up on poles and stay. They had to walk on benches. They had to go around statues. They had to do all kinds of things. And so that is what took the book into a different direction than what my outline was. The original outline of the book was, yes, he goes to school and it's more about grades and his report card. That's originally what it was. It was Crinkle Bear gets a report, and then he meets Lolly at the end when he graduates from school. He was going to meet Lolly and at the beach, but that is not what happened after the training. And then I was watching last year. I was watching the Super Bowl football game, and at halftime, Rihanna did she did the halftime performance. And when she was done, I was like, that's what I have to have.
wow.
That's what I'm going to put in this book. And so that your favorite chapters 10 and 11 were inspired by Rihanna. And I thought, well, how in the world will I get like a halftime show in the book? Like, how am I going to do a performance? Like, how would that work? And I thought, well, of course, a competition, the dog competition. They do them every year, just like the Super Bowl. And
Mm,
they don't normally do a halftime show, but that's okay. We will. And so Rihanna inspired it. And what also inspired it was that Jim is still a teacher, of course. He's been teaching for 24 years, but I actually years and I was a principal for 1 year. And then I taught homeschool children for like 12 years. And
wow.
so the conflicts and the personalities that they have that you would experience like in a school comes from us being in, teachers and
Wow.
experiencing that. So kind of a lot of things brought that together. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your take on this and I love your description. It really makes for an interesting discussion. And I love this part because I've read the book and I can relate with all that you're saying. It really made for an interesting read. And I'm really urging viewers watching this to pick up, consider picking up Schoolhouse Dogs. It's really an amazing read for me, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna
Thank
love
you.
it as well.
I'm
Now,
glad you liked it.
yeah, I do. Now, I would love to ask you, I'm curious to know if you experience any challenges in the process of writing Schoolhouse Dogs, Fixed Life. Now, we've already known about what inspired you and a bit about the information. Now, I'd love to ask you if you experience any challenges in the process of writing the book. If there is any, could you share with us what challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
So there were some challenges, and I think because there were so many characters and different characters,
Yeah.
I mean, there's 12 puppies, there's three teachers, there's alley cats, there's the announcer, there's so many things in there that what I came to realize that I never realized was such an important tool was a character map. So we sat down, we wrote every character, and I wish we had done it at the very beginning, and it wasn't until
Wow.
maybe a chapter in that we really took it seriously. And we described what they looked like, their personalities, everything about them. And then we literally used it all the way through the whole entire book. And I think that is something that most authors don't do. I comfortable right with the characters. And what I don't think they realize is that they do start to kind of blend together for a reader. When you get towards the end, the characters kind of start to seem like each other. We
Mm,
use that character map all the way through to the very last page to really keep those characters and their
sure.
personalities really separate. And every time when we went to write about them, we had that in our hand. And so, yeah,
Wow, I
definitely
love
important.
that. I love your take on that. It's really made for an interesting discussion. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Now, Dawn, I see that your works have won multiple awards and international recognitions. Would you like to tell us about your most recent awards?
Well, the most recent one was the American Fiction Award, which is a very large award that takes in only fiction. And
Mm.
so Schoolhouse Dogs won gold in it. And
Wow.
so it was very amazing. Probably out of all the awards, that was the one I said, "Oh, I'm never going to win that one. I shouldn't even enter." Jim talked me into entering it, and so all I got to say is I'm still just so amazed and surprised that it took
Wow.
gold. And all I have to say about all of our awards, 39. If you count the book cover awards, 39. God is good. God is good because I couldn't have done it without him. That's for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely, God is really good. That's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
awards and recognition.
Right.
Very
Right. Yeah.
intriguing and very inspiring as well. I love it.
Thank you.
Now, apart from Schoolhouse Dogs, Fix Life, do you have any other works you've authored or maybe currently working on?
Yeah, so I am currently working on my autobiography. And then
Oh,
Jim and I, yes, so that's a work in progress. And then Jim and I, we're both ordained ministers. Of course, he has a degree in seminary. I only have a couple of semesters. But we are starting a seminary school, and it's first going to start off as an online accredited certification class. So right now we are currently working and writing. It's the certification class is going to be about a 30-hour class. So we're writing all the coursework for that, all the tests for it, everything for that right now. And then we're also working on a book on education since we've both been teachers and Jim is highly
hmm.
intelligent. His IQ is 160. So he's over the 24 years of teaching has really done a lot of learning. And so
Oh,
we're also writing a book on education. And so those will be probably our next two things to come out. We have some other books that we haven't finished. Maybe they have like very last of the chapter done, and we might go back and finish those before we get the other ones published. It's just hard to say which ones will come first, but those are
mm.
what we're working on now. Yeah,
Wow,
so exciting.
that's such an amazing work you've got in progress. Very lovely. And I look forward to autobiography. I'm curious.
Oh, well, you know what? I have a piece of it. And I almost sent it to you for you to read for
Oh,
your opinion.
really?
So yeah, but it's only like 700 words, so it's still it's a
Oh,
just a piece of it. But I would love to know your opinion in what direction it's and how it's going. But I've lived a fascinating life, so yes,
oh wow.
yeah,
That's really amazing. I love reading nonfiction, so it's really nice to always have a story into someone's life. I love it. I don't know why.
yes, yeah. Well, if you want, I'll send it to you.
That would be great. I love that. Now, I'd
All
also
right.
love
Well,
to ask you,
uh-huh.
could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered ever since you got published?
So what I like about being published, I mean, it's really cool, right? You can take an idea, the concept of taking an idea in your head and bringing it to life on a piece of paper in like 150 to 200 pages is, I mean, that's really cool. Uh, I think it's one of the coolest form of artwork is
Yeah.
that concept is very hard, and it you just can't do it in a day. Like it literally takes time to write 50,000 words and to put a story together. So
Mm.
I do have a new appreciation for writing and for books. Took me off is that I thought that more of my friends and family would buy more of my work versus strangers, right? I thought they would be the first ones. They'll buy my art, they'll buy my photos, but they want the books for free. Like they just want me to
Oh,
hand it to them. Yeah, they don't want to buy them. They just want them for free. Even though, their books are cheaper than art and but really, I mean, it takes so much longer to write a book. There's so much more creativity and effort and time that goes into writing a book. Probably out
mm.
of all of it, that's the one I want you to pay. I mean, I won't pay for all of my work, but I mean, that really like I take okay, so this is our book of Job right here. We
Oh,
studied the Bible for 3 years. This is a devotional. It's 224 devotionals on the book of Job, which is a very tragic story. And we've made every devotional. But this book took 3 years to write.
wow.
And no piece of art takes 3 years to make.
So,
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you
yeah.
don't have to go and study something and study it and study it and write it and edit it and do all
Mm,
that. You know what I'm saying? So I wish
absolutely.
people had a little more appreciation for a book.
Mm,
And that kind of took me by surprise.
yeah. That's true, actually. And I love your take on this, actually. It's something that I can even relate to what most people experiences. It's just the
Hmm.
truth out there. Like we need more appreciation for artworks. We need more appreciation for creativity. Because writing a book is really a hard work to do.
It
It's
is a very
never an
hard
easy
job.
journey.
No, I mean you've got to come up with the no, we're not talking, artificial intelligence creating it. You're creating it yourself. I mean, not
Yeah,
only do you have to come up with everything that they do, but the dialogue, I mean, all the action, like everything, the scenery, like everything of a picture,
it's a
like yeah,
lot,
it's one scene, you do it. I mean, I know people who can make beautiful oil paintings in 2 hours. Like it's
Mm,
like a lifetime to make books.
yeah. And even the fear of having it right, like the fear of, yeah, I need to produce something very great alone itself takes a lot of work, a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of, contemplations, and it's a lot,
Yeah, it is a lot. Absolutely. It is a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. I wish the appreciation would come for books like it has for other
artworks.
arts. Yeah. And I do believe writing is a form of art. I mean,
Yeah,
I do believe I believe it's a written form of art.
yeah.
I mean, to tell a story. I know pictures tell a story and paintings tell a story, but to actually tell a story in strings of words is way harder to do. It's really way harder to do. And there's no interpretation.
Obviously.
Like, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's great. Thank you so much for shedding more light on this and sharing this too. Now, is there anything that you would love to share with the viewers about your book that we did not mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know?
Well, it's a very funny book. It's hilarious. It has it's great for male and female. It's got some boy humor in it. It's got girl chit chat. You've got, girl personalities, boy personalities, and really anybody of any age, anybody can relate to something in this book.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And it's
great.
action packed. It never stops. From going to into
Absolutely.
the countryside and they meet aliens. They're not really aliens, but they're dogs, so they don't know that they're not aliens.
Yeah.
The dogs in the book and the cats have no human abilities other than to talk. So they're still dogs. They're just dogs that talk. So they don't
Mm,
have like hands that work into counter with wildlife that they've never seen before,
mm,
or just things like that. And they're puppies still. And so but really anybody can relate to the book. So
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to
absolutely.
write.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
particularly love, there's this feature about the book that I particularly love, which is the section or the reality that the dog talks in there. It reminded me of a particular movie that I watched in time, but I couldn't remember the title. Many years ago when I was still a kid, the dog talks in the movie. I was like, oh, this book reminds me of this movie, but I couldn't remember the name of the movie anymore. So I was like,
Oh.
wow, very lovely to know, reminiscent, something like that.
Well, one of our books has already gone to a screenwriter and has a
Wow,
screenwriter, and it's in the hands of six producers, and it's being made into a TV series. So when we were meeting with that screenwriter, who is an Oscar award-winning screenwriter,
wow.
I really talked to him a lot about what does a book need to have in it to be made for a movie. And so he educated me quite well because we had a lot of meetings. So when I wrote this book, I wrote it with the intent that one day maybe it would be made into a movie. Yeah.
Wow, that's
So I mean
amazing.
that's what I was thinking as I was writing it. So yeah.
Wow, that's a huge consideration to be included in the novel while writing it as a writer. That's very lovely. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
This really made for an interesting discussion. Now, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book? What would you advise people in this category?
Well, now that I own my own publishing company, my first advice would be one, write that character map before you even write your outline. Write the character
Wow.
map, know know what the people are doing and everything about them, their personalities, and be very detailed. I mean, I was so detailed with everything, to what they looked like, the type of hair they had. Was it curly? Was it straight? I mean, everything. What color was their hair? What are their personalities? And use the character map all the way through. Is getting books from a publisher. That is what I find in stories, is that towards the end, the characters morph into each other, and they lose their personalities. And I think it's because the authors got familiar with the characters, but in
Mm,
writing you kind of don't. And so use the tool of the character map. My second thing would be formatting. Formatting is one of the reasons why I have all these awards, is
wow.
because people overlook formatting. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean, that the formatting of the book inside has to match the story. So if you take my book, Lightning Butterflies, this is a sci-fi, more of a sci-fi story, right? And when you open it up, you can see right here, right, that this is not traditional. This is a sci-fi look. It's not in a traditional manner. The
Mm,
font and the style and the formatting of the book has to match the style of book.
mm,
You can also take this book, because of you. This is more of a formal book. You can see, like, down here, we have
yeah,
scripture. We've got this
yeah,
beautiful script, and it's more in a traditional style. This is a more traditional book. So
mm,
all of this
oh,
has to match the book. The next thing
wow,
is you can't have widows and orphans. And so at the top of every page, you must have at least 2 lines. You cannot have one line that is not proper formatting. You have to have 2 lines, and you have to have 2 lines at the bottom. And at the end of the paragraph, you have to have at least 5 words. And if you don't have that, you do not have
Oh,
a properly
wow.
edited book. And then, of course, all the chapters have to start on an odd number. And so with my publishing company, that's a big part of what we do, is we get that book formatted properly. So formatting your book is really essential, because that's the way they're supposed to be. And when avid readers pick up a book and it's not properly formatted, they lose
Lose
faith in you
interest.
and your story, right?
Yeah.
Um, so those are my main things that I have to say about,
Wow,
what
this
should
is
be
really
done.
educative. I love your answers to this question.
Thank you.
And I'm really getting to learning this as well. This is my first time. Really impressive to know. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So Dan, in case we have some viewers who are watching this interview and are interested in getting a copy of your books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
So they're on Amazon. Amazon, they're on Kindle Unlimited, Kindle, and then you can get paperback and hardback on Amazon. I will be looking at some point and putting them probably on Barnes and Nobles also, but right now, um, Amazon. I've got so much going on right now. I don't know if I have time to. I would like to have time to get them on other platforms, but uh, one of the challenges is about writing, especially when once you start and you realize the fun of it, and I love it now.
Mm,
I have like more projects in my head than I can even, get done,
absolutely. I
more
understand.
stories, and having to
Yeah.
like start. I have a notebook now where I'm to write down stories, and then I think about it and I add to it and I add to it, and just all the different stories. Like I'm already thinking about like a sequel. How do I have time to write sequel? I'm writing all these other things, but I'm already thinking of a sequel to Schoolhouse Dogs, and what is that going to look like?
Wow.
And I already know, and parts of it. And as I go through life every day, I'll see something, and I want that. I want to write that into the book. So then I'll go and make notes, because I'll probably be a year before I get around to writing it. I'm going to forget all
Mm,
my ideas. So I
yeah.
now just write them all in a book, just so I can keep up with them. But yeah, yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing about this. And I left a link in the description part of this interview for interested viewers who would love to get a copy of Dan's Renee's books directly on Amazon. So thank you so much, Dan, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. It has been such a joy, and I love that you're out here doing this with all the books and your passion for books and reading. It's such a pleasure to get to meet with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for your kind words too.